My name is Jack Riley. I'm 35, and for 8 years I genuinely believed our marriage, Amber's and mine, was the kind people quietly admired. No showy Instagram moments, no grand declarations in public, but steady, trustworthy, a quiet rhythm that made you feel safe. We shared a modest 2-story home in Austin, cooked together most nights, binged documentaries we never finished, and took weekend drives without a destination. Felt like enough. Amber was sharp, organized, the kind of woman who made color-coded spreadsheets for vacation planning. She worked as a project manager at a mid-sized IT company. People respected her. She commanded attention in a room not with volume but with certainty. Me? I worked remotely as a cybersecurity consultant. Hours of silence, code, server logs, and the occasional panicked email from clients when something glitched. I wore hoodies, stayed up late, drank way too much coffee, and answered every security question like it might save someone's life. We didn't work in the same world, but we respected the lines between them. Or at least I thought we did. Then came the retreat. She mentioned it in passing one morning. Mug in hand, blazer on, already late for a meeting. They're doing a weekend retreat at this lodge outside the city. Team building stuff. Spouses are invited. I asked if she wanted me there, and she hesitated just half a second, but then smiled. Yeah, I think it'd be good. You've been cooped up in that office cave for weeks. She wasn't wrong. I'd been buried in a project for a client who insisted on 12-hour turnaround times and last-minute system overhauls. Maybe I needed the break. Maybe she did too. So I agreed. Packed my hiking boots, a paperback I never got around to reading, and followed her car out of the city and into the hills. The lodge was surrounded by pine and silence. The air clean in a way city air never is. Her coworkers greeted me politely. Logan, Marcy, Jay. Someone named Trina who kept calling me Jake. They were all friendly, though a little stiff, like they didn't know what to do with a husband at a corporate party. I didn't blame them. Most of them had heard of me but had never seen me. The first day passed easily enough. Nature walks, overpriced trail mix, awkward group icebreakers. At dinner, Amber sat close, touching my arm occasionally, laughing at my jokes. For a moment, I thought maybe this would be good for us. Maybe this was a reset we didn't know we needed. Then came the second night. It was cool out. They'd lit a fire pit in the main clearing, handed out Esmores kits and cheap beer. People lounged on folding chairs and picnic blankets. I sat beside Amber, watching the flames crackle, feeling the chill settle on my arms. Someone turned on a Bluetooth speaker playing indie rock too softly to identify. Then Logan spoke. He was the kind of guy who always had something to say. Tall, buzzed haircut, cocky in that I play rec league soccer on weekends way. He leaned back on one arm, marshmallow stick in hand, and looked at me. So Jack, he started, grinning like we were old pals. What's it like pretending to work in pajamas all day while the rest of us put in real hours? A few people chuckled. I smiled thinly, assuming he was joking. I wouldn't say I'm pretending, I replied. Working in pajamas still pays the bills. He laughed louder. Sure. But I mean, Amber's told us you're like a mystery. Hoodie on. No one sees you. Suddenly the house is secure again. Honestly sounds like a movie hacker. The group burst into laughter. I turned to Amber. I expected a small shake of her head, a roll of her eyes, something that told the group, all right, enough. But instead, she joined in. Hard. Oh, Logan's not wrong, she said, giggling. Sometimes I seriously don't know what he does all day. He just disappears into that office like a bat in a cave. The laughter grew louder, and something in me fractured. I stared at her, stunned. She was smiling, warm in the firelight, shoulders shaking with laughter. But none of it was with me. None of it was for me. I stood slowly, brushing graham cracker crumbs from my hands. You're defending him, not me, I said. Her smile faltered. Jack, don't be surprised if one day I'm just gone. The laughter died like a flame snuffed too fast. Everyone went quiet. Amber's eyes narrowed. Oh, don't start the drama, Jack. It was a joke. You always blow things out of proportion. There it was. That tone. The one that said you're being too much again. The one that made me feel small in a room full of strangers. I didn't reply. I didn't throw my cup or raise my voice. I just looked around at the circle of people, her people, and realized none of them saw me. Not really. I walked toward the cabins, the gravel crunching under my boots. The night felt colder now. She didn't follow. Later, long after the fire burned low, she slipped into the cabin quietly. I was awake, staring at the ceiling. She didn't speak. I didn't move. She turned her back to me in bed. No apology. No explanation. Just silence. And I didn't know it then, but that night, the second night of a company retreat I hadn't wanted to attend, was the beginning of the end. Not because of what Logan said, but because of what she didn't. She didn't defend me. She didn't see the crack forming. Or maybe she did, and she chose to widen it anyway. She never mentioned it the next day. No apology. No, hey, that got out of hand last night. She acted like it never happened. Like we hadn't just stood on the edge of something breaking. The retreat ended with brunch and fake smiles. I shook hands, thanked people I barely remembered, and nodded through conversations I didn't hear. Amber was chatty with her team, especially Logan. I caught them exchanging inside jokes, quiet laughter as they loaded up their cars. She never once looked at me the way a wife looks at her husband when something needs fixing. The ride home was long and too quiet. She played a podcast. I didn't listen. My hands gripped the steering wheel harder than they needed to. I glanced over at her a few times, hoping for some sign she remembered the crack, felt it like I did. But she just sipped coffee and laughed at something in her headphones. That silence, her silence, became the first symptom, the first real change. In the weeks that followed, Logan's name started coming up more often. Casual mentions in passing, Logan said this, or Logan brought donuts, or Logan's leading the new account. She said his name like a reflex. Easy. Familiar. Too familiar. I started noticing patterns. Patterns that weren't there before. She stayed later at work. Claimed meetings ran over, that traffic was bad. She stopped leaving her phone face up. If she got a text, she turned slightly, just enough to shield the screen. Once, I caught her on the porch whispering into the phone. When I stepped outside, she ended the call and said it was work, that she had to calm down a client. She used to kiss me when she came home. Now, some nights I didn't even hear the door. On a Sunday morning, I caught her taking a photo of herself in the mirror. She wore one of her new blouses and a different lipstick than usual. She looked good. Stunning even. But it wasn't for me. She didn't even send it to me. I walked into the room and asked, "What's the occasion?" She flinched, turned off the camera, smiled. "Just checking my makeup." "You look great." "Thanks," she said, already walking away. I checked her phone that night. I'd never done that before. I wasn't the jealous type. I trusted her. But something was different, and I had to know if it was just in my head. It was locked. She used to share everything, passwords, schedules, even grocery lists in synced apps. But now, even her calendar was private. So I paid attention. Wednesdays and Fridays, she left earlier than usual. Always said she had closed project reviews. I asked once what that meant, and she gave me a look like I'd asked how to boil water. Internal team stuff, nothing you'd understand. But she never brought home work from those days. No notes, no follow-ups, no slide decks open on her laptop. Then I noticed something strange. On those very days, she always deleted her most recent photos. I'd see her take a selfie in the morning, then go to grab the phone later and it'd be gone. Not in the gallery, not in recently deleted. Cleaned out. Intentional. And then there was the smile. She started smiling more, but not in our conversations. Not with me. It was like she was holding on to some inside joke that I was never going to hear. Her eyes lit up in a way I hadn't seen in months, but only when she checked her phone, or got a notification, or read something on her smartwatch and silently chuckled, thinking I didn't notice. I asked her once if everything was okay between us. We were in bed. She was scrolling, the light from her screen turning her face cold and colorless. She looked up, blinked and said, "Why wouldn't it be?" "I don't know," I said. "You just feel far away lately." She paused, then smiled like I was a child asking about monsters under the bed. "I've just been tired, Jack. Work's been insane. Don't overthink it." "You always do." That was the answer I kept getting. "Don't overthink it." As if the cracks in the floor weren't real, just figments of my anxious mind. But I wasn't imagining how she shut down emotionally, how she'd zone out mid-conversation, or how she started dressing up for client meetings with a little too much care. One Friday evening, I came home early. She wasn't expecting me. Her car was gone, and when I checked her location on Find My, it said, unknown. She'd disabled sharing. I sat on the porch for an hour. Then she pulled into the driveway, makeup slightly smudged, hair tousled like she'd been in wind or hands. She looked surprised to see me. "Hey," she said too quickly. "What are you doing home?" "Meeting got canceled. Figured we could get dinner." She hesitated. "I'm exhausted. Can we do something tomorrow?" I nodded. She smiled, walked inside, and went straight to the shower. I sat on the couch, staring at the blank TV screen, and finally whispered the thing I hadn't let myself say out loud. "She's cheating." I didn't know how far it had gone, or if it had gone anywhere physical at all. But something had changed between us, shifted in a way that didn't come back. I wasn't the man she confided in anymore. I was the man she explained things to. That night I had a dream. We were standing in a field, just the two of us. Amber was holding something fragile in her hands, like a bird or a glass sculpture. She looked at me and smiled, then opened her fingers. It fell. It broke. She turned around and walked away while I bent down to pick up the pieces. I woke up before I could. It was a Thursday morning, mid-October. I remember because the coffee tasted off, and the air in the kitchen felt heavier than usual, like the house knew something I didn't. I was scheduled to fly to Charlotte for a 3-day contract. A new client. High stakes, fast turnaround, the kind of project that used to thrill me. I'd been prepping for a week, briefing documents printed, backup drives packed, even my favorite gray button-down freshly pressed and hanging by the front door. Amber barely looked up from her laptop when I kissed her on the cheek. "Text me when you land," she said, eyes glued to her screen. "I will." She didn't say goodbye, didn't walk me out like she usually did, just typed and sipped her coffee. I took a rideshare to the airport, headphones in, mind half on the project, half still tangled in the mess that had become my marriage. The driver made small talk. I answered out of politeness, but not interest. At the terminal, I got the notification. "Your flight has been canceled due to a mechanical issue. We apologize for the inconvenience." I stood in line at the counter to rebook, but the earliest flight wasn't until the next day. The client said we'd shift the meeting schedule. No big deal. I didn't tell Amber. Maybe part of me didn't want to. Maybe, deep down, I needed to see it with my own eyes. I grabbed coffee from a kiosk and ordered a taxi. 40 minutes later, I was back in our neighborhood, watching the familiar trees roll past the window, my heart pounding for reasons I couldn't quite explain. The house looked normal, quiet, driveway empty, curtains drawn. I stepped inside. The air was warm. The scent of her perfume hung in the hallway, stronger than usual. Music played softly upstairs, something acoustic. I followed the sound. 2 wine glasses sat on the kitchen counter. One had lipstick on the rim. The other had fingerprints. The dishwasher was full. So was the trash. On the living room sofa, a blanket draped over the cushions and an empty wine bottle tipped onto its side. There were 2 plates, both scraped clean. Forks still resting on napkins. I wasn't supposed to be here. I climbed the stairs slowly, not sure if I was hoping to be wrong or to finally be right. Halfway up, I heard it. Laughter. Amber's. Stopped me cold. Not because she was laughing, but because of how she sounded. Light, playful, free in a way I hadn't heard in months. I reached the landing and turned toward our bedroom. The door was cracked open. The music was louder now. And there they were. Amber. Logan. She was sitting on his lap, both of them still dressed, but in that way people look when they're between stages. Her hair was pulled to one side. Her cheeks were flushed. She was wearing one of my shirts, the soft navy one she used to steal when we first moved in together. Her arms were around his neck, his hands on her thighs. They hadn't heard me. I stood there, long enough for something in her to shift. She turned slightly, just enough to see me. Her face drained of color. Logan froze. His hands dropped like he'd been burned. I didn't raise my voice, didn't throw anything, didn't yell. I simply asked, "Is this part of the project too?" She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Logan stood up quickly, looking for his shoes, avoiding eye contact. He mumbled something about being sorry, about how this wasn't what it looked like. As if there were another explanation. Amber finally found her voice. "Jack, I didn't know. I thought you were gone." I finished for her. She flinched. I turned to leave. She called after me, "Wait, please, can we just talk?" I stopped at the top of the stairs, not looking back. "You laughed," I said. "At me. With him. That was your choice." Then I walked out. I didn't go to a hotel. I didn't call a friend. I didn't even cry. I just drove. No music. No destination. Just the road and the realization that the life I thought I had was already over. What shattered wasn't just trust. It was identity. I wasn't her partner anymore. I was her audience. Background noise. A placeholder until something better or louder walked in. I found a small motel near Lake Texoma. Paid in cash. Sat on the edge of the bed staring at the floral wallpaper until the sun came up. The next morning, I started looking for somewhere permanent. I didn't want revenge. I didn't even want closure. I wanted distance. Quiet. A place where her voice and his laughter couldn't reach. I found a lakeside trailer for rent in Oklahoma, just a few miles from the Texas border. No neighbors close enough to overhear anything. No Wi-Fi unless I boosted the signal myself. It was perfect. I didn't tell anyone where I went. I left my wedding ring on the motel nightstand. The trailer was small, but it didn't matter. I didn't need much. A bed, a kitchen table, a desk where I could work, and a few bookshelves to fill with the old books I hadn't opened in years. The trailer park sat on the edge of a lake, surrounded by trees that whispered in the wind like they knew secrets they weren't sharing. The silence out here was different from what I'd grown used to. It wasn't heavy. It was free. I didn't check my phone. I didn't answer emails. At first, I thought I'd stay for a weekend, then a week. Maybe it was the adrenaline, the way everything had collapsed all at once. But I needed to be somewhere no one could reach me. Somewhere where I didn't have to explain myself. Where I didn't need to apologize or make excuses for decisions I hadn't even made yet. The first morning was the hardest. I woke up with a headache, still tasting stale regret in the back of my mouth. The bed was too small and the air smelled too fresh. I sat on the edge of the mattress and looked out at the lake, still mostly covered in early morning fog. I could hear birds, songbirds, ducks, maybe an eagle off in the distance, and the sound of water lapping gently against the shore. I felt small but alive. I spent the first few days trying to get my bearings. I went into town to buy supplies, cheap cans of soup, a few bags of rice, and some bottled water. I ate what I could, cooked what I had, and walked along the shore in the evenings to watch the sun set. It was simple. No meetings, no corporate deadlines, no one expecting anything from me. Just me and the world I wasn't sure I still belonged in. Then Jenny found me. I didn't expect her to. She texted me the day I left, but I didn't respond. I knew she'd find out eventually. She always did, but I didn't think it would be so soon. Her message came through late on the fourth day. "I knew you'd make it. Just don't go back to her." I hadn't planned on going back. But the more time I spent in that tiny trailer by the lake, the more I realized it wasn't about going back. It was about not needing to. I didn't answer right away. Part of me wanted to call her and explain everything, tell her how angry and broken I was, how I still didn't fully understand how Amber could have done that to me. Could have laughed when I was the punchline, could have smiled and acted like nothing had changed. But the other part of me knew that talking would never fill the silence. Talking would just keep dragging me back into a life that wasn't mine anymore. So, I did what I always did when things got too big for me to handle. I worked. It didn't matter that the office was a tiny desk with a rickety chair and a view of the water. The clients didn't care. The work was steady. I fixed problems. I built firewalls, encrypted passwords, and wrote reports on network vulnerabilities. In between projects, I took walks along the shore, found a rhythm to my days I hadn't realized I was missing. Mornings were for coffee and emails. Afternoons were for work, either with clients or my own projects. Evenings were for the lake. And every day, I felt the weight in my chest grow a little lighter. The chains that had once wrapped themselves around my mind were slowly uncoiling. I stopped answering her calls. Amber tried to reach out once, maybe twice. I saw her name pop up on my phone a few times. The first call I let ring out. The second, I picked up long enough to hear her voice break as she begged me to talk. But I didn't answer her. Not that time. Not ever again. I deleted her number from my phone. And when she called the third time, I blocked her. The messages came in waves, texts, emails, even a letter sent to the trailer. The messages were the same, almost rehearsed. I'm sorry. I didn't mean it. I didn't want to hurt you. Then there were the accusations. She blamed herself. Then she blamed me. She said I'd never understand. And the one that stung the most, please, Jack, you're not the only one who's hurting. But I didn't respond. Couldn't. It wasn't that I didn't still care about her. I did. I loved her once. I'd loved her in ways that felt like home, ways that ran so deep I thought they could never break. But that had changed. That was gone. It wasn't about love anymore. It was about survival. My survival. I had to find myself again. I had to rebuild my life, piece by piece, without looking over my shoulder. Jenny came to visit a week later. She drove the 2 hours to the lake, bringing a bag of my mother's old books and my father's watch. I hadn't realized how much I missed those things until I saw them sitting on the table in front of me. She sat across from me, her arms folded. There was a moment of silence, a moment where we both wondered if I'd come back or if I'd stayed too long in my self-imposed exile. I knew you'd be okay, she said quietly, her eyes scanning my face like she was seeing the pieces fall back into place. But don't go back to her. You're better than that. I nodded, looking down at my hands. There were no easy answers, no quick fixes. But I knew one thing. I wasn't going back. Not to that life. Not to that woman. I'd lost something. But in a way, I'd found something else. I'd found myself again. And that, I realized, was all I needed. A week passed before I turned my phone on again. I hadn't planned on checking it. It wasn't like I'd left it off for the sake of drama or to be a martyr. I just didn't need it. I had everything I needed in front of me. Quiet mornings by the lake, the steady hum of my work, and the absence of things that had once felt suffocating. But eventually, the silence became loud, and curiosity nudged me. I powered the phone up slowly, the screen flickering to life like I was re-entering a world I no longer belonged to. 17 missed calls from Amber, 18 voicemails, 33 text messages. I hesitated, staring at the screen for a long time, before tapping on the first voicemail. Her voice cracked the second she spoke. Jack, I'm sorry. I never meant for it to be like this. Please just call me. Please. I need you to understand. I clicked through more messages, scrolling quickly now, avoiding the words that made my stomach tighten. Apologies. Regret. Pleas for forgiveness. The same story over and over again. Every message was a loop, an echo of something I no longer recognized. She sounded desperate. Desperate to fix something she had broken beyond repair. There was one message that stood out, though. It was from Logan. His voice was shaky, almost nervous. He apologized again and again, each word wrapped in shame, but the tone was unmistakable. He was scared. He didn't want to lose his job. He didn't want to lose her. His words lingered in my ears like a reminder that the world doesn't stop spinning just because you're broken. But it wasn't his apology I needed. I didn't need hers either. I scrolled down further, expecting another message from Amber. But instead, there was something unexpected. A message from her mother. Jack, I know you're upset, but you have to understand. Amber is confused. She never meant to hurt you. Please come back. Before it's too late. Her mother. The woman who always tried to play the mediator. The woman who made me feel like I was walking on eggshells when I simply needed a real conversation with her daughter. I shook my head. It was the same thing over and over. Please, Jack. Please forgive her. She needs you. The messages blurred together, one pleading after the other. And I felt it again, like the air had been ket out of my lungs. The weight of their expectations. The pull to go back to fix something that couldn't be fixed. I deleted them all. I didn't want to hear it anymore. I didn't need to. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't heartbroken either. I was just tired. Amber had chosen a different path. She had made that choice the moment she laughed with Logan at my expense. The moment she made me the joke. And even if she never fully understood the weight of her actions, I didn't need to carry it for her. Couldn't. I hit delete again and again until the messages were gone. The screen cleared, and it felt lighter than I expected. There was something liberating in that emptiness. For the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe. I turned the phone off and left it on the small wooden table by the window, the one with the cracked edge that I had noticed when I first arrived. It was the perfect spot for it. I wouldn't need it here. I didn't need anyone else's voice in my head, telling me what I was supposed to do next. No more noise. No more lies. The sun was setting when I walked out to the lake. I stood at the edge of the dock, watching the colors spill across the sky like liquid fire. The world felt still here, untouched by the chaos of the past few months. The water shimmered beneath the fading light, and I could hear the soft sound of birds calling to one another as they settled for the night. I thought about Amber, for the first time in a long time, without the weight of her voice dragging me down. She had chosen her own path, and I had chosen mine. I wasn't sure what the future would bring, but I knew that for the first time in a long time, I was no longer living in the shadow of someone else's mistakes. I wasn't defined by her absence or her apologies. I was defined by what I had learned about myself in the silence. I had walked away from the wreckage of my past, and now, I was standing on the shore, watching the water recede. The path ahead was mine to make. And for once, I didn't need anyone else to tell me how to walk it. 2 months had passed. I thought about returning to the city for the smallest of reasons. Picking up a few things from the house, clearing out the last remnants of my past life. But I knew it wasn't about those things. It wasn't about her. It was about closure for me. I booked a one-way ticket, no plans beyond the immediate. My mother's books, my father's watch, a few photos of Jenny and me from before everything had gone wrong. Simple things. Things that belonged to me. I arrived early, before the sun had fully risen, and drove slowly through the empty streets. I didn't go straight to the house. I stopped at a diner and had coffee, just to buy some time to steel myself. Finally, I parked outside. The house looked different in the daylight. Smaller. I walked up to the door with the spare key she hadn't returned. I unlocked it. The house was still. Too still. I dropped my bag by the door and moved through the rooms. Amber's scent lingered in the hallway. Her shoes were still by the door, where she always left them. It all looked like it was still ours, but it wasn't. It wasn't mine anymore. Not in the way it used to be. I walked up the stairs. The bedroom door was slightly ajar. I opened it without thinking, just to see. Amber was sitting on the bed, facing away from me. She didn't turn when she heard the door open. "Jack," she whispered. "You really left." I didn't answer right away. Instead, I looked down at the picture frame in my hand, one of us younger before things got complicated, before we got lost. She stood up slowly and walked toward me, like a ghost in the dim light. "Is there really no saving this?" she asked, her voice strained, almost fragile. I thought about it for a long moment. I thought about everything she had said, everything she hadn't said, and everything I had allowed myself to believe. There was a time when I would have fought for this, for her, for us, but not anymore. "No," I said, my voice steady. "You didn't defend me when it mattered. I don't need you defending anything now." She looked at me, searching for something that wasn't there. I stepped back, my hands still clutching the photo. Felt like a goodbye. Final one. I didn't wait for her to say anything else.